Hi, and welcome to another episode of Focus Forward. I'm Chris Avon-Smith, and as usual, I'm really excited to be with you. Today I'm going to be talking about something that I think is particularly poignant and ideal for this time of year, and that is playing it forward. You know, so many of us are given so many blessings in our lives, and one of the things we can do with those blessings is actually play what has been given to us forward to other people. You know, if somebody does something good for you, it doesn't always mean that you need to pay them back directly. But I think the lesson that we must always learn is that we must take what has been given to us and we must give it back to somebody else. Play it forward always. You know, we're going into Christmas and the festive season, and it's the time to give and help people out and all of that sort of thing. And maybe this is just the lesson that we can take into this festive season. Big example I want to bring forward here is perhaps if we're going to be giving gifts over this season, why not remember those small independent shops and manufacturers and people that we may know, friends of friends or our own friends, who manufacture something that we could actually buy and pass on as gifts. It's playing it forward. It's taking a lot away, sure, from the big conglomerates, but they are going to get their income anyway. But think of those people who for many months this year were unable to work, whose production lines came to a halt. Alternatively, those people who lost their jobs and found innovative and wonderful ways of actually creating a new income stream. Why don't we support those people this year? Because I think that is what is so important. The other thing about playing it forward is, you know, if we meet up with people and we see them, we can always network people. You know, I might meet Joe the lawyer, and 2 days later I meet somebody who is in need of legal services. Put those two people together. I'm not saying recommend per se if you don't know how the people work or operate, but I think it's really important to just network amongst friends, people you know. Use your social capital and play it forward, because that is how we build our environment, our friendships, and we build up other people, especially during these very trying times. You know, the other thing we can do is, and this is a wonderful thing, I call them airplane books. You know, if we pick up a novel, some not so cheap because books aren't cheap anymore, but you pick up a book at an airport and you read it on holiday, etc., etc. Instead of bringing it back and it taking up space in your suitcase or at home getting dusty on a bookshelf, why don't you give it to somebody and ask them to give it to somebody else once they have read that book? You know, the other thing we can also do is if you've got a tree that's bearing fruit, I don't think it's really fruit season right now for a lot of things, but if you've got a tree bearing fruit, why don't you make up little baskets, make up packets of that fruit and just give it out instead of letting it rot on your tree and fall to the ground or let the birds get to it, etc., etc. There are so many people that aren't or who don't have very much at the moment, and we can play that forward. You put a couple of oranges or some nectarines or figs, I think figs are in season at the moment, put them in a little bag just on your pavement for anybody walking past. Keep them in your car. If people you stop you at the traffic lights, hand that out. It's also a very good time of year to start going through your closets. Stuff you haven't worn for a long time and probably never will, but that's still good. And I think that's the key factor, that it's still good, it's still serviceable. Keep it with you. If you make 50 cents at a jumble sale, it's not generally going to make too much of a difference to you. But just think of the difference that it would make to somebody who's indigent, somebody who's living on the street, in a stormwater drain or something like that, if they could get some extra clothing, some extra warmth, an extra blanket you're not using, an extra towel, any of those sort of things. If you've got a couple of extra cans in your cupboard, take those with you, hand them out. Let's play it forward this festive season. And finally, I want to talk about playing it forward in relationships. You know, sometimes as friends, we might get into difficulties with each other, and this does happen. And if you do, if there's been a misunderstanding, if there has been something that hasn't quite worked in your friendship, please take the time to evaluate what that friendship means to you, what that transgression, whatever it was, has meant to you, and see if you can't play it forward and move beyond that over this festive season. Have a great week, and I'll be back with you next week. See you then.